break-even challenge. In this video, I'm going to set you a little challenge where we can work through it, pause the video to complete the task, and I'll give you the answers at the end as well. Okay, here's a question. Task 1 is calculating the break-even point. B is operating the car wash. B is going to be charging customers £6 for each car wash. B has provided you with the following information about different costs. Rent is £10,100, soap is 20p per car, salaries are £25,000, water is 30 pence per car, and wax is 10 pence per car. So, calculate the break-even point for B's business. So let's take a look at the answers. So, firstly, you need to use the formula fixed costs over contribution. Now remember, the contribution is the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. So firstly, let's get our fixed costs. We need to add our rent and our salaries together because they're both fixed, and that gives us £35,100. We know that our selling price for each car being washed on average is £6, and we also now know that our variable costs per car are going to be 60 pence because our soap plus our water plus our wax. And we add them all up together. We did a bit in brackets first, so you can see that the contribution will give us £5.40. 35,100 divided by the contribution of £5.40 gives us 6,500 cars. And there is the break-even point. Well done, that's task 1 complete. Let's move on to task 2. So, task 2. Calculate the margin of safety. B expects to wash 7,000 cars a year. Pause the video while you have this task and then unpause it to find out the answer. So, firstly you need to remember your formula, so it's your actual number or your predicted number subtracted away from your break-even point. So in this case, 7,000 cars is what he expects to do. We know the break-even point is 6,500 cars, and that gives you a margin of safety of 500 cars. If you got that right, well done, you completed task 2. So, task 3. What could B actually do to improve the margin of safety? Pause the video while you give some answers, and then unpause it to see what answers I suggest. Okay, you could have said something like increase the car wash price, so you could have charged customers more. Negotiate cheaper rent with his supplier for his rent. He could potentially find a cheaper supplier for his soap, for example. He could find a cheaper supplier for his wax. He could reduce how much he pays employees. They're all valid ways to actually improve his margin of safety, meaning that he would actually have a greater margin of safety rather than a smaller margin of safety. So task 4. As you can see, B has provided you with a break-even chart. You need to label all of the lines on the break-even chart, mark on the break-even point, and also mark on the area of profit and the area of loss. The units at the bottom go up in thousands, just in case anybody is confused by the chart. Okay, hopefully you've got the answers correct. As you can see, the break-even point is where the revenue and total cost lines cross. Your revenue line is the orange line, that's R. Obviously your fixed cost is a straight line that moves across the page. Your total cost line always starts, remember, from your fixed cost line. And your variable cost line is obviously the one at the bottom that starts at 0 and increases by a much smaller amount, but it's by the same proportions as what you'd see your total cost going by. You'll notice the big red triangle is the area of loss, and the green triangle is the area of profit. Remember, anywhere in that green triangle, you're making a profit. Anywhere in the red triangle, you're making a loss. And at break even, you make a big fat 0. So, finally, let's answer this question. How could conducting break even help B? Pause the video while you undertake this answer. So, you could have come up with answers such as based around it would help him to plan the business. So, for example, it might let him set budgets. It might let him do some sort of planning and set some targets or inform his pricing, for example, that he might do. You could also talk about monitoring, so it allows him to check his progress of his business, and maybe he can make some changes to the price or try and find cheaper suppliers if required. So he could take some action if it was required. It could help him to control his costs. It could help him to even try and motivate his employees so that they could do more work, so he can try and meet those targets. Or maybe even try and help him to set sort of sales amounts, so he could actually try and achieve some forms of targets from that. And of course, target setting basically is about how he could set targets for himself. He could set them for his employees. He could even set budget targets, for example, so on expenditure. Or he could set targets based around how many sales he wants to do. But they are all the answers that you possibly could have come up with. Hopefully, you've now got 5 tasks out of 5 correct. You understand break even, you're feeling confident, and you're loving the topic. Just remember that break even is one of the fun sides of business, and it's one of the things that keeps me buzzing for business. Don't forget, if you're not finding this so simple, I've got loads and loads of resources on my YouTube channel. Check out some of the videos that are on there. And until next time, keep buzzing.